Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's a super tough race, aggressive, fast.
This racetrack is narrow. It's easy to make a mistake.
Very high, physically demanding track.
The guys are on it. They're wringing every bit of performance out the car.
Super high-paced race, one of the most fun races you can have.
Oh, hey.
Look at this full wide of GTD traffic.
There's really no other track like Road Atlanta.
Was there enough going on for you? Incredible.
Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta opened in 1970 and is recognized as one of the finest road racing circuits in North America. Located less than an hour north of downtown Atlanta, The track hosts several major events during the year, including the world-famous Motul Petit Le Mans, Drift Atlanta, the HSR Midi Vintage Classic, Moto America Superbike events, and numerous club and corporate events throughout the year. As always, we will add to that list this evening, at least virtually, as Operation Motorsport rolls into North Georgia for a 60-minute brawl. Welcome, race fans, to Pit Stop TV. As usual, we're live to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter this evening. Eric Brennan and JP Costa with me in the booth, Trey Shuttlesworth on social media, and Emerson Ardon helping in the production trailer. And I am Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. We join you tonight from the virtual Brazelton, Georgia, for round 3 of 8 on the season. Eric, we're glad to have you back. JP, you as well. We've got a lot of great racing on tap this evening as we get back into the swing of things this week. Next week we have a break, then we head to COTA, so really it's getting down to crunch time in this 8-race season.
Yeah, no, first of all, thanks for having me back, because I had an absolute blast last week with the coverage that we brought to the people from Road America, and I went back and watched the race at VIR to kind of get a feel for how this season is developing, and so far the racing has been phenomenal. We're going to be talking about 3 different classes, all of which carry different meanings in our race coverage here tonight, but the biggest story, which we're going to touch on a number of different angles, including our up-and-coming guest that we'll have on here in just a moment at Travis Hill, but it's what this series is all about with our friends at Operation Motorsport, and it just kind of adds a lot more luster and shine to the racing product that we get to see and bring everybody here tonight from the virtual Road Atlanta.
And as we head to Road Atlanta, we hope to see just a fantastic race as we saw last week. We saw the first race at VIR. We thought it couldn't get much better. Then we saw Road Atlanta. It just stepped to a whole new level. And at Road Atlanta, it's obviously very special. It's a fan favorite track, I guess. Everybody loves it. You know, the room for mistakes is much smaller than Road America. And I hope just to see an incredible race. You know, the pack seems to be very close based on the results in practice. And I just hope to see an hour of an absolute blast, just like we had last week.
And I think we're absolutely getting ready to see just that, guys. But somebody who actually might be able to kind of tell us a bit what Road Atlanta is actually like to drive is actually Travis Hill, and we've got him for our guest appearance this week. And for that, I will turn it over to Eric Brennan.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And Travis, absolute pleasure to have you on here with us. As Andrew alluded to, you know, you've got a professional motorsports background, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I think more importantly here tonight, we want to highlight the fact that you're actually a board member for Operation Motorsport, and everything that organization stands for, having it roll over into the sim racing world, albeit with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. What does this mean to you? Not only seeing them go down this road, but also seeing it be as successful as it is, not only for the beneficiaries, but for everybody who's involved.
I mean, first off, thanks for having me here, guys. It is nice to be able to talk about Operation Motorsport and some of the incredible impact they've had. Like you were saying, we get to race cars, but we also get to work specifically with the beneficiaries and bringing them out to some of the races with us as well. So seeing the eMotorsport program in this sim racing series take off like this is great, just because we can have an impact in a time where COVID is really stopping us from being able to work together and host these guys and girls and obviously men and women at the racetrack to learn new things. So we get to experience something new, and I think it's also going to touch on more driver development that we've definitely been talking about at Operation Motorsport.
Now, we'll talk a little bit more about the organization itself a little bit later, but I want to talk more about you, Travis. I mean, you know, I had a chance to kind of comb through some of your motorsports ventures and endeavors, and I'll tell you, very impressive the amount of experience you have behind the cockpit of a race car. If you can, summarize for us your racing career in its totality and kind of what you would have going on under normal circumstances at this point right now.
Well, from the beginning, it was my brother and I, who Tooth Autosport is Trevor Hill and Travis Hill, so we worked together to create this racing team and organization now. But it started when we were racing go-karts together, shifter karts, U.S. road racing series. So we ran tracks like Road Atlanta in a 125cc shifter kart, which is crazy. And then it progressed. I had an opportunity to race a Porsche with a team out of the west coast of Canada. Dropped out of school, used my student line of credit to pay for some testing and some races to try to springboard a career. and magically it started working. I ended up coaching a new track that was built at near Ottawa, actually very similar to Road Atlanta's proximity to Atlanta. Calabogie Motorsports Park is about an hour from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. That's where our home base is now. So it was recently built as a club racing track back in the mid 2000s, and we quickly jumped on board. I became an instructor there, and just supporting people in how to get into racing or in car driving. Really, it started with advanced driver coaching and then progressed into motorsports, which is where our passion was while I was trying to pursue a career as a professional driver. So one thing led to another. We then started supporting race cars, building race cars, and then creating entire racing programs and a driver development program where we take drivers from spec Miatas all the way up to, at this point, our customers are running GT3 Cup Porsches or the Audi RS3 LMS TCR race car, which seems to be very popular these days. So now we take care of customers all throughout and provide a ladder system for each individual depending on what their goals are.
That's a very unique angle to take, especially being that there are so many different pathways to make your way up the racing ladder, or just to simply get involved in the sport. And Operation Motorsport taking this opportunity to jump into the sim racing world. Hopefully everybody will be back at the real racetrack. A number of representatives were actually at one of the racing events a week ago for one of the GT races with Operation Motorsport. And that allowed me to segue briefly here. I noticed that on your website it says Autosport is not my career, it is my lifestyle. And I think that summarizes a lot of what Operation Motorsport is standing for. Now, granted, they're trying to create an avenue of kind of, I will call it a medicine to fuel some of that adrenaline that coming from the world of active duty often leaves a bit of a void once that way of life is behind you. And being that you take that approach to life and motorsports, how do you think that fares as far as your roles and responsibilities as a board member for the organization?
Wow. Well, I mean, bringing these men and women into this world, if you have a passion for cars and sport and competition, you really quickly get sucked into the world of motorsport, and it really is like an addiction. A lot of people talk about it. So, I mean, as a board member, I know what this industry can do from the inside and out, and know what kind of benefits it's given me even as a young person growing up and as a kid and developing into an adult, and the lessons it's taught me in life and then in business now. A lot of those things anyone could relate to, and based on, the intensity of a racing weekend, working together as a collective unit, there's a lot of similarities to the military world. And from a motorsport side, I also see the benefits that military mindset can really bring to motorsports as well. That structure and discipline and working together as a collective unit, like I said, and you're hanging out for a weekend. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of things that work really well together. So it's been great for both sides. And it's like I said before, it's really nice to have an impact on people and people that you just get to share your passion with.
And that's a great point, because I think a lot of people look at the sport of auto racing and see it as this fierce, competitive, testosterone-filled type of environment where you're always angry, you're always on the chip, you're always ready to go. And that is the case in some aspects when you're competing, but the camaraderie amongst the people in which you're working with to reach a common goal truly matters. And being that Operation Motorsport, is a lot about that bond. I want to take you back to about 1 year ago where you had a chance to compete in the Operation Moto Race of Remembrance back in 2019. What was that experience like for you, and what did that mean for you as a whole?
Oh, that was really cool. We've known Tiffany and Diesel for a few years now, since the inception of Operation Motorsport, and to know what Mission Motorsport does and to see the growth that we've had at Operation Motorsport. And again, those people that we've impacted, to go from their first weekend just seeing a race happen, like Dale Newbury and Theo are two that happen to be with us for our TCR program for the last 2 seasons. And Dale and Theo were also two of the very first beneficiaries. I mean, we've had a blast with them since, but to see them grow from that first weekend to then helping crew an entire car, for me, I got to drive the car, but it was just a privilege to be able to go there and be with this family that you've built up for the last few years, and you've gone through, you know, various weekends and the ups and the downs and the celebrations and all that stuff, and to see them man the car and organize the whole thing through the OpMo program, it was just a privilege to be the one that got to hold the steering wheel.
Now, when we wrapped up, or towards the end of our broadcast last week for the sim race that was held at Road America, we had a chance to talk to some of the drivers who were in the field, including some of the beneficiaries. And I think that was a lot of our first glimpse into just how much work has gone into some of these drivers being able to compete on this level. And hearing some of their stories and their backgrounds, and even the current point leader for the beneficiaries, who, you know, it went through the story how he had to work with his race team, talking about Adam Poppenhaus, and kind of formulate a plan as one of our racers who, you know, has gone through some tough times while in combat, and now able to be here and talk about how he had his adrenaline pumping, his heart beating in the latter stages of a sim race, no less. Just hearing those stories, I think it kind of makes us all have a little bit of perspective as to what this is all about. Being able to see it firsthand, live it firsthand, and also to have a pulse on it as your role on the board. I mean, it gives me chills understanding some of the background that some of these people come from in the best way. It is a truly amazing story and concept. For you, are you aware as to truly how much good not only you but the entire Operation Motorsport organization is doing for all of these people and more?
You know what, it's an honor to know that I haven't been able to see how many people are really being impacted. We're fortunate that we get to see a lot of people firsthand, but that's the beauty of this program, and the idea is that the growth, it's infectious. People want to help people out and work together and grow this group. And I'm thankful that there's so many people that are contributing to this now. I never thought that we would have, I shouldn't say never, I never thought that I, in this industry, would be able to be part of something like this, which was really part of that driving force to keep pushing and keep, you know, working with everyone to come up with new ideas and how do we touch more people. And the Sim series is, again, a perfect example of that. It's really an honor to be part of it, and it's cool to be able to go around and see how well this program is growing, because it deserves to grow.
It's definitely one of the best ways to reach the people. For me, this was the first time that I've had the chance to hear about Operation Motorsport, and I'm hooked. It's something I'm going to continue to follow. And for everyone watching and listening, you can go to operationmotorsport.org for more information. Again, this esports avenue is something that is new to them, but they have a bunch of other programs available. You can learn more about their beneficiaries, their team that includes Travis Hill, whom of which we're talking about right now, and we'll be touching more on that throughout the broadcast. Now, Travis, obviously the whole reason why this esports series was put together was, you know, and partially because of what's going on in the world right now. It took a long time to get back to the racetrack, and in some cases we're slowly starting to peel back some of the barriers that were in place to prevent that from happening. What does your schedule look like? I mean, obviously, you know, you've got a number, you talked about it at the beginning of this interview, the services you offer, your driving duties, your involvement in so many different facets of the sport of auto racing. How do things look for you as far as the rest of your season personally in 2020?
Well, first, obviously, at the start, there was fear, wondering whether you're actually going to have a job or a business anymore. Fortunately, in Canada, everybody is still racing locally. We have a number of different levels of those programs and multiple cars within each program. So we're fortunate that the driver development and a lot of the local races are still happening. And our drivers are just as passionate. If anything, they have maybe a little bit more time on their hands. We've lost some programs. Obviously, we were intending on doing IMSA with the Audi TCRs this season. And just the logistics with going across the border has made that, you know, not realistic for any Canadian teams. So we're focused in Canada at home. Again, fortunately, our shop is literally at one of Canada's most beautiful racing tracks at Calabogie. We literally drive onto the paddock and onto the track if we need to test or do driver development program. So our schedule really ended up being just condensed into a very short amount of time. We're finishing up about, I think, 4 or 5 straight weekends of racing, which is all that we could hope for, right? I almost feel guilty being able to do a lot of the things that we normally do. But it's a testament to, again, how addictive this sport is and how great it is to be able to do it. And we're fortunate, again, to be able to bring out a few of our Opmo beneficiaries and continue working with them hands-on. We'll be working on a few more things to get them into some cars maybe in the future. Hopefully before the snow flies here in Canada. So it hurts us to be able to go to the States. We have a shop in Florida as well that we base from in the wintertime. So we'll likely not be able to go down and do that. So we may do a little more ice racing at home.
Well, Travis,
we'll be working on cars and having some fun.
All right. Well, Travis, we really appreciate everything that you are doing, not only for the racing community, but also for Operation Motorsport. For more information, visit TravisHillRacing.com to see all the services that both Travis and Tooth Autosport have to offer and to learn more about the man behind some of the puzzle pieces that put together this great initiative, which is bringing us all here together tonight. Travis, thank you so much for joining us here on Pit Stop TV, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Good luck.
And again, that is Travis Hill, who not only is one of the heads up, in fact, principal owner of Tooth Autosport, but also, as we mentioned, one of the key board members of this Operation Motorsport. And Andrew, I don't know, you hear some of the dedication that goes into making all this happen. It just, I don't know about you, but it just fills me with pride to even be a part of this broadcast and knowing all that goes into making this possible. Truly incredible people doing incredible things for even more incredible people who will be competing with us in just a few moments.
It gets increasingly chilling, I think, in the best of ways, actually, because it just constantly, I think, lays on, I guess, the pressure in one way, but also just the sense of being able to help these people, at least get them onto YouTube and allow their family and friends to watch that they're racing and doing something good on here on Operation Motorsport on iRacing, and just to help Operation Motorsport. And I mean, it's just, it almost has me speechless. That's why I'm stumbling over my words right now, because I actually, other than it's just amazing, words are just gone right now. It's always good to be a part of what Operation Motorsport is doing, and to be the main proponent of bringing Operation eMotorsport to everybody, be it RECARO, Mobile One, everybody else watching CrowdStrike Racing. It's really cool and humbling to be that missing link between Operation eMotorsport and everybody watching at home that just wants to see their family and friends compete, especially in a time where, in Travis's case, they still can't get racing. I know a lot of us in the States have been able to go back to racetracks, and a lot of teams have been able to get back to racetracks and such, but when you're across the border and you can't go between the two countries, it really does create that issue. Thankfully, like you said, they're stationed right there at Calabogie, but there's still that big severance, if you will. Moving on to this evening, however, we have run through qualifying. That's what you were seeing as Eric and Travis were speaking not so long ago, and we do now have a starting grid, and for that, I'll turn it right back over to Eric Brennan with the top 10.
Thank you very much, Andrew. We will take a look at the top 10, and you see our top leading pro driver as I pull up my notes here. And we'll notice that we do have the classes broken out. You'll see that in the parentheses that we have scored next to the names that are in place. But with that, it is going to be the pro racer who has dominated the season thus far with 2 wins on the tour, kicking things off from pole, and Chris Walsh, and that he was the fastest qualifier. And our second place runner is one of the open drivers, and that is going to be Jacob. And as a matter of fact, you know what? Why don't we call on JP here? JP, I don't know if you got your stats in front of you, and you're more organized than I am here. Perhaps you could help us run through the rest of the starting grid. As, again, we're trying to work through the new graphics they have in place to identify our 3 different groups of classes that are competing here at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. In third place, we have Rick Haslett, another open driver. And in fourth place, actually, in fourth place, we have Dustin Burkhalter. So the top 4 are all pro and open drivers, but on fifth place, we have Adam Poppenhaus, the first of the beneficiaries, and one of only 2 in the top 10. In sixth place, we have their second place finisher from last week, Christopher Bailey. And in 7th place, we have Brian Burkhardt, and in 8th, Hunter Reeve, another beneficiary who unfortunately suffered a final few laps. He ran out of fuel actually in the final few laps last week. On 9th place, we actually have a new name around here, Gen 2. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that completely wrong, but I apologize. But Shane Hunter, also a new name, I'm pretty sure, rounds up the top 10. Andrew, you want to take over for the top 11? For actually the top 20?
Yeah, so as you guys noticed, it's only showing the first names right now. We'll have that fixed by next week, but thankfully we have the last name of Jason Leach right there in the number 22, starting in 11th. In 12th it is, we'll try and catch up here, that's going to be a John. I'm going to say one John Winker there in the number 07, starting from 12th. We've got 13th place, that should be Joe Keens. 14th is going to be a Tim, and that's going to be Tim Bernard in the 47 car. Then it is Theo B. Actually, the B works right with that in 15th. We're coming to the start of the race, so we will let the standings fly, I suppose. Coming to the start, again, Chris Walsh on pole. We'll try and search for that number 28 car, and they go green under the bridge at Road Atlanta.
Green flag is up for the third race of the season, and Walsh, who has had a spectacular season thus far, does not get the jump down to turn one. The sharp right-hander, the first corner. These drivers are going to contest here today, and Walsh is actually going to slide back into second as they begin their trek around this 2.54-mile layout. They come hopping over some of the curbs here, and the Miatas are going to make their way down this second sector of the course while Walsh nearly gets into the back of your race leader, JP.
Yeah, Jacob Williams got an absolute fantastic start, and it's the first time we don't see a pro driver winning, but unfortunately his spin is out of turn 9, and that's the lead gone, and back to Chris Walsh. And as you were calling out the start, I noticed that 2 drivers unfortunately spun out at the beginning of the race. And unfortunately, John Winker and Joe and Winker was unfortunately one of them, a 12th place starter. But what a disaster for the start of the race for Jacob Williams.
Yeah, that's something that you truly hate to see, to kind of quote Trey Patton right there. He got a great start, Jacob Williams did, in the number 32. He's going to slot into about 60th spot currently as they work to complete lap number 1. But unfortunately, he's going to go from the top to the bottom, and that's reverse. Usually you want to go from the bottom to the top. Chris Walsh heads down into turn 10 for the first time this evening. Rick Hazlitt has company from Dustin Burkhalter, a couple of open drivers, as they pressure one another through turn 10, that chicane at the end of that long straightaway, and they will finish up the lap momentarily, Eric.
And we talk about the different classes of drivers. We have the pros, which Chris Walsh is tabbed as. You see the P next to his name on the timing and scoring sector as they come down to complete lap number 1. But 2 of the open drivers that are duking it out for a second as Burkhalter has a look down to the inside of Hazlitt for that spot. Hazlitt leaves the door open just enough for him to squeeze up through. But keep in mind, Burkhalter actually is 2 for 2 on the season thus far to start things off. He got the win for the open class back at VIR to kick things off. Also got the win at Road America. And right now he's 1 spot shy of remaining perfect. Still a long way to go, though. Over 57 minutes left to go in this 1 hour time to fair. But he is certainly stalking the backside of Hazlitt for that runner-up spot while Walsh tries to break free at the head of the pack.
Yeah, unfortunately this week Walsh probably is not going to have a lot of competition, but again, it's Road Atlanta. You know, he can make a mistake and unfortunately he can lose it all, as we saw that happening with Jacob Williams. But as we look back, the fight for P2 is still very much alive. You know, we see Dustin Burkhalter really getting close to Rick Hazlitt under braking, and now they head into the massive back straight. As we can see, a few drivers actually make contact in the back. I'm pretty sure that's Tim Bernard, and now, yeah, Tim Bernard unfortunately spun there, as we saw a bit of contact between, I'm pretty sure that was Joe Keens. No, sorry, it was Glenn. I'm pretty sure someone actually made contact, and unfortunately that made Jen lose a lot of position. So that's gonna be, you can see there the replay. Unfortunately, it's just some bad luck, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's gonna cost him. But now he can try to make a recovery race because it's still a long way to go. You know, we still have the pit stop, so he can try and make some strategy work in order to gain some positions to lead in the race.
Yeah, a lot of racing remains, thankfully, for those drivers, including Jacob Williams, who had the early woes there. Chris Walsh goes quite a bit faster right there, a 1:39.9 for the number 28. Rick Hazlitt still holds on to second place over Dustin Burkhalter. That is for the open race lead. Of course, Chris Walsh, I believe, is the only pro driver, the only pro driver in attendance this evening, so he will easily, of course, take that win. I don't think you can lose to yourself. Adam Poppenhaus currently is our fastest beneficiary. He sits in 4th overall. And, another beneficiary just a little ways behind him, actually 2nd place in the beneficiary class. Hunter Reeve was really sideways down the hill right there. Thankfully holds on to that number 46 car. Since the pre-race was kind of a bit, quickened up, if you will, a bit abbreviated. There we go, that's the word. We do still want to tell you about RECARO, and whether it's on the racetrack or on iRacing, RECARO Automotive is all about making driving feel safer, more comfortable, and more controlled. A driving experience that you can really feel. Now, Eric, as these guys start to get into kind of a groove and figure out this racetrack, and the track starts to take a little more rubber, their tires heat up, moves like we've seen in the first couple of laps are only going to come more and more often, especially down at a turn 10 as Hazlitt has to defend from the 33 of Burkhalter.
Yeah, as we go back up and take a look at that battle for what is second, but it is first for the open class that is competing with us tonight. I want to go back and correct something I said earlier. I mentioned the fact that Burkhalter actually swept the opening rounds. I misspoke there. Chris Bailey, who made his first start of the season, came out and won. It was Burkhalter had to settle for second, so he's got a 1.5 average finish thus far, trying to grab himself another win for the open class. However, you bring up a great point, and I think JP touched on what is going to be the key point of the race. It was just the last time out they decided to start these cars on a 50% fuel load, and that created some very interesting pit strategy towards the end of our race at Road America. Now, granted, this track is a little bit more than half the size of Road America, so you don't have to be necessarily on the number. We may not be seeing so many cars run out of gas on the final lap like we did last week. However, the amount of time you want to spend on pit road, and it sounds like that's something that these drivers take into serious consideration throughout their practice and preparation for these races. How much time you spend on pit road, how good your in-lap is, how good your out-lap is. Even though we might start to see a little bit of separation, as you mentioned, Andrew, as these drivers find their grooves, that is going to be the key point in the race where we could see most of these top running positions decided. Although everybody here from about second on back is all staying in lockstep formation, with Hazlitt currently holding down that spot. This is about 2 seconds off. We saw momentarily there the leader in Walsh breaking away, but still we got about 6 cars in line here from 2nd through 7th as they head down one of these long straightaways, JP.
Yeah, and talking to a few of the drivers before the race, we're expecting around 25 to 30 laps on the fuel tank towards this first stint. So we should be looking towards that, about the halfway mark. We already have like around 3 laps only of race time, but we're definitely going to be taking a look at some drivers who may try to do an undercut, if they cannot get past. So we're definitely going to see some strategy games evolving. We see Dustin again getting close, and he's not going to put the nose in. So maybe a few of the drivers are already looking at the strategy, at the fuel strat for the race. So it's going to be interesting to see what these next 25, as Dustin is going to be looking at the inside. We don't see that move so often. He's going to make the move stick. What a beautiful move there, Andrew.
Yeah, that was textbook on how to get around Richard Hazlitt at the top of the hill right there. Burkhalter goes around and gets second place, but that is the lead in the open class. And now Hazlitt puts the pressure back on him, on board right here with Rick Hazlitt as he goes back to pursuing now the number 33 of Burkhalter. And it seems like these two have been the cream of the crop in the open class as of late. Of course, Eric mentioning that Burkhalter and Bailey are the open winners thus far. And Bailey is actually just behind these guys. He's in fourth spot overall, third in open. So the cream of the crop, I think, is staying right where we've seen it so far this season. I want to go back to Hunter Reeve because he has company from Adam Poppenhaus. Not sure what happened to the number 12, but he has fallen down to 6th position. And yeah, I seem to remember the beneficiary of Adam Poppenhaus being ahead at least of Hunter Reeve, so they have swapped positions, and Hunter Reeve now leads in beneficiary class.
Yeah, and Poppenhouse told us, if you were with us with our coverage of Road America last week, he had a spirited battle with Joe Keens, who's actually in a different class. He's one of the open drivers. And, you know, it didn't really seem to matter. And I think that's what we're getting out of this front-running group, as you got Hunter Reeve, who's the highest running beneficiary, trying to chase down Christopher Bailey, the open winner from last week. We're referencing some of the categories, as you would in most multi-class racing series. However, for these drivers, I'm not sure they really care. I think they want to find a way around as best as they can. And it's actually would be a little bit more of a flex if we see the beneficiaries get up there and mix it up with the opens. And also, if anybody could find something to battle with Chris Walsh, who's the only pro driver in the field leading. But we've got some very competitive lap times being turned from about second on back to fifth, and not too far behind them, as Andrew mentioned, Poppenhouse, even after what may have been a slip-up, or just getting run up out of the top running order here after running around the fifth position a lap ago. Still running there in sixth, not too far behind, actually starting to close back up is Poppenhouse. As this field hits the end of the straightaway, coming through what looks to be turn 6. They're going to have another right-hander at turn 7, and then that back straightaway that lasts forever, which would be a great opportunity to make a pass as Reeve slides wide, and they start to battle for position with Poppenhouse and Reed door to door.
Yeah, Poppenhouse ended up losing 2 positions as he got pinched in the inside, and Reeve actually went clean around the outside from 2 places back. But Poppenhouse is looking to get the place back as he kisses the back bumper of Hunter Reeve, and now he's gonna be saving a little bit of fuel, but actually he's coming under pressure from Brian Burkhardt. As Brian makes the move, he's gonna make a double overtake here coming up to the final chicane. That was an incredible move, but actually Reeve isn't having any of it as they actually make a little bit of a contact, exiting it out. And now actually Poppenhouse makes the move stick, and he's gonna be close enough to get the inside. No, Burkhardt closes the door. So that was actually incredible. But Reeve once again comes back and now has the inside line over to turn 1.
And suddenly the beneficiary leaders go side by side to turn number 1. They get it sorted out. Reeve takes that top spot for the moment. But as you were mentioning, Eric, these guys don't care about the classes. The classes only break up the point standings. And in most multi-class racing, of course, the classes are entirely different cars. They perform totally differently, and they have separation between one another. These cars are all the same. They're all the same setup. They're all the same vehicle. There is no difference other than the driver. So it's up to the driver to make that separation in class. You're watching onboard as well on the bottom side of the screen as they battled through turn number 10. Now they go down that stretch towards what feels like a hairpin. It's absolutely not a hairpin, but turn 6, turn 7, it's kind of a double right, and it's certainly another good passing opportunity before you go down that backstretch. Oh man, that was the 13 of Bailey clearing himself. Sorry, no, that was the 10 of Burkhardt clearing himself back in front of Hunter Reeve. These guys really going at it and handing a few punches as they go.
Was very impressed with Hunter Reeve's ability to hang on the outside through 6. You don't see that much often. And now we got the beneficiaries possibly going to try to team up to get by. Or is Poppenhouse going to think about going 3 wide? Hunter Reeve's going to shut the door as they approach what's going to be the outside of the hard-braking left-hander at turn 10. And it is Reeve who gets by cleanly. Poppenhouse follows him through, and they're going to kick Burkhardt back into the position where he came down for the green flag in about the 7th spot, as it is Reeve and Poppenhouse who continue to remain virtually inseparable in what is the best battle on the racetrack as they're going at it for 5th.
Yeah, that was an incredible move from Hunter Reeve. He tried going around the outside. He got pushed wide. He managed to avoid contact and got a great exit into the main straight. Actually, the back straight, sorry. And Poppenhouse just gave him that little bit nudge to get him a little extra speed. And unfortunately, Burkhardt had to yield the position as he made that incredible double overtake on the braking. Unfortunately, he wasn't brave enough. Actually, he maybe have felt that he should have given more room, but now he's going to be back on the chase, as I'm sure Poppenhouse is not going to be wanting to stay behind Hunter Reeve for very long. You know, as we head into the massive straight, we see how powerful the slipstream is, and as you can see, the battle for second is still very heated. You know, Rick Hazlitt is actually all the way in the back of Dusty Burkhalter. I'm not pretty sure if they're fuel saving, as we're focused on the battle for the beneficiaries. So it's very interesting to see, and Christopher Bailey actually hasn't dropped out at all. So it's definitely a 3-way battle for second, and actually a 3-way battle for the podium, as one of these 3 drivers, if this continues, is going to be opt out of the podium later on in the race.
Yeah, if this continues as is, one of these three drivers, like you said, will not finish on podium. The other two will. And currently, Burkhalter and Hazlitt would take those positions. Burkhalter over Hazlitt. These guys second, third, and fourth overall. First, second, third in open. As Chris Walsh has checked out. We're almost 15 minutes of the way through our hour here, so I want to go ahead and look through some of the field. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way forward. Once these guys sort themselves out through one, looks like Hazlitt will stay behind. This is what's great about Miata racing, especially when they are on the same setup. You get these trains for a little while, just setting somebody up for a move, and you really have to wait for it. But going back through the field, Tim Bernard in 19th spot currently. He's the last car running. He's about to get lapped as well. You can see Chris Walsh out behind him. Tim Bernard in 19th after his spin, exiting turn 7 not so long ago. Hopefully he can turn things around. He is one of our beneficiaries this evening, and the next beneficiary ahead of him is John Winker, as actually, John Winker in the number 07, exiting that chicane, now headed down towards the front stretch. He's in 18th. Brian Winker up ahead of him, one of the open drivers. He is in 17th in the number 15. Jay Gleason is 16th, and then we move into the top 15, Eric.
You got Glenn Gray, who is another one of the open competitors in car number 9. Actually, has picked up a few spots. It's starting in 18th spot. In fact, Glenn Gray is actually pretty well down in the running order in championship points. So as you can see, just kind of getting used to perhaps this Miata and this type of field. Currently running back in the 15th spot. 14, Jason Leach, who is in fact one of the members with Operation Motorsport in the open class as well. We've got to talk to Jason on a number of occasions about how they put all this together, currently running at 14th spot. Shane Hunter, another open driver in the field. He too, as a matter of fact, as I take a look at the open overall points, looks as though that Hunter, this could be Hunter's first race, according to my notes, which again are not always the best, but Hunter is running in 13th spot. Then we have Caleb Belden, who takes you up to 12th. He's another one of the beneficiaries in the field, third in points coming into the weekend after a very strong run at Road America last week. As we move up to one spot out of the top 10, we currently see Jan 2, who is another open driver, also making his first start of the year. As JP, we get up to the top 10.
Yeah, in 10th place, a driver actually made 3 positions up from the start. Joe Keynes is actually having a great race. He has Gen 2 right in the back of him. But in 9th place, we have Brosum, TOB, who actually made 6 positions. So that's an incredible start for the race for him. And I'm pretty sure he's chasing Jacob Williams, our second starter, the guy who actually got the lead on the run down to turn 1 and unfortunately spun out of turn 5. So he's making his way back. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up finishing, if maybe he pulls out a different strategy or something. In 7th place, a guy that one of the few drivers actually who have held the position he started in 7th place, we have Brian Burkhardt. And then in the second place out of beneficiaries, we have Adam Poppenhaus. He's battling still for the 5th place spot with Hunter Reeve, the lead of the beneficiaries so far. In 4th place, we have Christopher Bailey, and in 3rd and 2nd, we obviously have Rick Hazlitt, who actually has dropped down into 3rd and is gonna trying to be putting pressure into Dustin Burkhalter, which is our lead open driver. And in 1st place, the guy who has checked out, led every single lap so far, we obviously have Chris Walsh.
So that takes you through the field so far this evening. We're getting closer and closer to being 20 minutes of the way through this race. Just want to remind you a little bit about RECARO right quick. An ergonomic sitting position means a comfortable position. With perfect seat contours and innovative features that support your body, RECARO Automotive makes driving fun, be it on the road or racetrack. RECARO Automotive puts people first every time. Now, Eric, as we do get closer and closer to 20 minutes of the way through this race, that will be the 1/3 mark in this, well, actually in every race that we have here for the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. That means we're getting close to pit stops. That's going to pretty much open up that pit window. Once you get inside of around 40 minutes to go, that's where guys are going to start to think about if they want to undercut or not. Who do you think pits first out of this trio we have in the open class?
Well, this is only the second time we've seen this come into play this season in 3 races. It wasn't a storyline back at VIR. They decided to add this little wrinkle to the plot as we watch these races unfold. So I got to go back to my notes and take a look at who kind of perfected the art back at Road America. And when we look at the beneficiaries, you got to think about Adam Poppenhaus, who actually told us that he works with his race team not only to fit his rig and race sim for him to compete, but also they try to come up with strategy. And we actually saw Poppenhaus struggle slightly. You see him on your screen here. Remember, he was running up in the top 5 at one point, started 5th, was as high as 4th, and has gotten drop kicked just a little bit, a couple of spots. You know, JP threw out the idea that he may have wanted to intentionally fall to the tail end of what is now a 2-car battle for position with Hunter Reeve right out the front windshield to save fuel. I believe it. I think that he's someone who has proven to know how to perfect the number, and I would look at him to be one of the drivers who, if I'm not sure of my strategy, I'm going to keep an eye on what that 12 car is doing before I hit pit road.
I'm definitely putting my money on Christopher Bailey. You know, we saw him just staying back throughout this 3-car battle. You know, we saw how strong the slipstream is around these tracks, that we actually have Tim Bernard actually spun again out of turn 5. So we can see that turn cutting a few drivers off guard. You know, it's a very difficult turn on every single car. But going back to the strategy game, obviously I think Christopher Bailey may have put some strategy into the works, because we saw how strong the slipstream is, especially around this track with that massive straight. So the potential for fuel saving is absolutely massive. You know, if you just stay behind, you buy your time. I'm pretty sure these drivers unfortunately know they're not within contention to win the race. You know, obviously they're gonna win in their class. I'm pretty sure everybody wants to win overall, but winning in your class is absolutely special. And I'm pretty sure, especially Christopher and Rick right now, they could be trying to fuel save in order to save a few seconds off the pit stop, which can actually make a big difference throughout the race.
We're looking a little ways further back in this field right now. Joe Keens seems to have caught up with one Theo Brulsema, and this could be a really good battle despite being through a couple of different points classes. Joe Keens, one of the open drivers, Brulsema a beneficiary in the number 24, and Brulsema sideways through 10. Oh my gosh! Keens took to the grass, the pass in the grass, and he makes it work for the moment. I think he's going to have to give some time back, though, on the inside of the racetrack. Looks like he'll do just that. And, well, no, they're side by side through the final corner, now onto the front stretch. These guys really going at it. I wasn't expecting that kind of move into the chicane. I don't think Brulsema was either. That was certainly something.
That was something indeed, and I'm actually impressed at how much separation these cars could have, and they're not done yet. They're still jockeying for that spot as they're coming through some of these turns side by side. And Keens is, you know, he's had a very strong start to the season. Second in points, 10 markers out of first, trying to chase down Burkhalter in the open class as far as championship point standings. The problem is Burkhalter's all the way up there in P2, while Keens is trying to battle back after starting 13th, not the best to qualify. Oh, trouble behind. Just saw one car go out of your frame and spin sideways, and it is the driver he was battling for position. That's the Brulsema, who spins by himself, and he's going to lose more spots as Keens breaks away.
Yeah, not only we saw Theo spinning, but we also saw Brian. You know, unfortunately he was there as well. So turn 5, cutting a few other drivers noticed on the very next lap as we saw the mistake. So you just see the nature of the track. You know, if you get on the curb on the wrong side, on the wrong angle, the back end is just gonna step out, and there's no way you're gonna catch it. So we could see, you know, obviously on pace, Chris has the advantage, but we see he's not pulling away as we saw from the last 2 weeks. So he may just be taking a little bit easy to avoid making those mistakes that can end up costing the race. You know, obviously we know that the drivers have the fast repair, but still, you don't want to be towing to the pits to take the fast repair and end up losing a lap over a silly mistake. So that's going to be interesting to see if they're going to keep battling, as Christopher Bailey actually makes a really big lunge onto the curb, and he's now all over the back of Rick Hazlitt, who actually lost a bit of contact to Dustin. So that's interesting to see. They're not fuel saving, just Rick can't keep up with Dustin at this point in time, as we see the drivers again getting a little bit drifty out of turn 5, and that's going to give Christopher maybe a look down into turn 6, but he may actually wait, as we actually talked about the fuel strategy to play out in the long game.
through 6 and 7. And you mentioned Chris Bailey looking like he wants to get on behind that 59 of Rick Hazlitt. He absolutely does, and for good reason. He could put himself in that pocket and draft between those two drivers. But also points. Points are everything when you are in a points paying league, so obviously he just gets some more points out of that. But you mentioned going over the curb out of turn 5. You have to go out there and you have to pound that curb if you want to be fast. Unfortunately, that's just the racing line. Everybody knows it, so everybody does it. The downside, the con to that pro is you can really throw the car for a big slide, or even overcorrect the opposite way and actually hit the walls on the right side of the racetrack, or you can even break something if you're in that fragile of a car, or at least on iRacing, a fragile car, or in real life. I think it's a whole lot easier to actually break something going over a curb like that here at Road Atlanta, because you have to be careful when you go and pound those big curbs. You can bend a wheel or something. Break a truck arm, whatever it may be. You can absolutely do some damage hitting those curbs like that repetitively as well. Now, Miatas are pretty good at doing it, but eventually something's got to give.
Yeah, very surprised to see just how aggressive you have to be as far as attacking the curbs just to maintain distance with the competitor and car in front of you. And Andrew, you've already alluded to the fact that there is a fine line right here at that point of the racetrack. We saw Christopher Bailey get all 4 tires up onto that curbing, and we started to see a little bit of distance develop there. We drop back now to the beneficiary battle, and one of the most interesting things that I noted in my research for these events with OperationMotorsport.org, we talk about the number of classes, pro drivers, of course, racers who, have their illustrious resume on the pro side, the open drivers pretty much open to other competitors on the platform, but the beneficiaries are who this organization is all about. And in preparation for this series, qualified beneficiaries got the initial 3-month iRacing subscription covered by the organization. So that is one of the perks that Operation Motorsport was able to provide to set this series up. And that is just a fraction of all that they do for all these incredible people, with their goal simply being to virtually engage service members and veterans through this form of eMotorsport diversity. And it's an introduction and conduit to Operation Motorsport's true mission and opportunities, which aid in retraining, recovery, and rehabilitation for veterans of both the states and our friends up north in Canada. And it is just an incredible initiative, and we're getting to see the competitive side of it. But if you want to learn more, we want to invite everyone once again to visit OperationMotorsport.org. And as we start to see the racing world go back to a little bit of normalcy, we hope to get a lot of these beneficiaries back out to the racetrack shortly. But first, Hunter Reeve and Poppenhouse are going to continue to battle for the last spot in the top 5 and what would be the class win for the beneficiaries if things were to stay this way, as we are 4 minutes shy of halfway.
Yeah, as we get to halfway, we're seeing what we saw in the past 2 weeks, amazing battles, trains, evolving and dissipating and then creating itself back again, as we see, a train of a few cars battling for second and then a few cars battling for fourth, or actually for fifth, sorry. And we see that all throughout the field, and that's something that you don't often see in a lot of leagues, and that's just great to see, all these drivers from different backgrounds, from different conditions today, and it's so great to see these drivers battling out all together. They may be friends off track, but on track I'm pretty sure they're rivals, and everybody wants to finish ahead of their on track rivals, at least. As as we still see Reeve and Poppenhouse battling out. Poppenhouse actually looks like he lost a bit of contact to Hunter Reeve, so we may see, I don't know if he's fuel saving. We saw how good he is. So we're definitely going to have to see. Hunter Reeve is definitely going to be a little bit more cautious on fuel than he was last week. Obviously, he ran out, unfortunately, and lost a lot of positions. So as we pass over the halfway mark, we now should be seeing around 5 to 10 laps maybe into the fuel tank. And definitely now the strategy game is going to be the main focus towards this final 30 minutes.
And now you see ATVO turns to calculating some laps to the end of the race. So we're expecting about 20 laps to go in that area. Of course, that kicks up every time we get to 20 laps to go, even in our oval races. So we're just about 2.5 minutes shy of our halfway mark. Chris Walsh continues to lead the race, and he's got that lead by some 7 seconds over Dustin Burkhalter in second place. He's got about a second back to Rick Hazlitt, who has almost 2 seconds back to Chris Bailey, third place in Open, fourth place overall. The next best battle is going to be between Reeve and Poppenhaus, we were already watching. There are some other groupings of cars on the racetrack, though. I think Shane Hunter, Brian Burkhart, the next closest, and Jason Leach not so far back. But our first pit stop of the evening is going to come from Joe Keens just before halfway, about 2 minutes before halfway. He comes in, and he's going to get some fuel and go to the end of the race.
And if we think back to when we saw pit stops take place at Road America, it was Daniel Morad. It was the other pro in our race 1 week ago, not in the field here tonight, but we noticed that he got off a pit road very fast. As a matter of fact, we just saw that Keens was sitting there for quite a while. That's probably a good thing, because even if you try to tweak with the amount of fuel that your pit crew is actually putting in that car, if you time it wrong, you're either going to be in extreme fuel conservation mode in the waning laps, which allowed Chris Walsh at the time to close up a lead at one point, was nearly in double digits. In fact, it might have been in excess of 16 seconds. Until Morad eventually ran out of fuel on the final lap. So I think we want to try to keep our eyes on the cars that sit in the pit lane a little bit longer, and if some of them perhaps make a mistake as far as how much fuel they're going to put in, that may kind of be a little bit of foreshadowing as to how we could expect their race to wind down. But we're going to start to see some jumbling in the running order as the pit stops are just about getting set to get underway. And also, just want to point out momentarily, how about the driver that's up to that 7th spot? That was your outside pole sitter in Jacob Williams, who spun on the opening lap. Even though it says that he's running in 7th spot, even though he qualified in 2nd, he was well further back in the running order, and he is currently 29 seconds off the leader. And look at it there. You can see he did start in that 2nd spot, but he plummeted after that first lap, well outside the top 10, and he is charging his way up through the field, still losing ground to the leader the last few laps, but he is closing up on Poppenhaus and Reeve, and he may be able to crack the top 5 with pit stops looming.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jacob Williams is in a completely different strategy. He's definitely going to be going flat out till the end, so we may see him taking a little bit extra fuel than the drivers ahead of him. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the correct strategy as he tries to push as hard as he can. Obviously, he qualified 2nd, so in qualifying trim, he's the 2nd fastest driver on the track, and we're pretty much seeing that. He obviously dropped way back and is already up to P7. He's a few seconds back, 8 seconds back from Poppenhaus. And, if those two drivers again start battling after the pits, if they don't end up catching each other, we're definitely going to be seeing some battling. We're definitely going to be seeing Jacob Williams catching up. As you saw just on your stream, Jason Leach, unfortunately, another victim of turn 5. And that corner takes no prisoners. If you make a mistake, doesn't matter if you're leading or if you're a bit further behind, you're gonna be end up in the wall.
Another victim to circumstances currently is Rick Hazlitt, who has lost that position now to Chris Bailey. So 3rd and 4th now swap. We saw a few moments ago Rick Hazlitt's big mistake in turn 5 where he got up on the curb and I think carried too much speed, had to slow down and downshift real quick, and actually kind of taking the line that Chris Bailey just took, and Chris Bailey's going to go around right in front of him. So Chris Bailey around in turn 5, it continues to be Calamity Corner, as Darrell Waltrip might say. He's going to whip that car around right in front of Hunter Reeve, who will go on by and collect that position, 4th spot, as now Chris Bailey falls into 6th, losing that spot to Adam Poppenhaus as well. Jacob Williams, Eric, you were just talking about him. He's hitting the pit lane, or has hit the pit lane. There he is right there, getting service, and he's taking tires.
And, keep in mind, we just saw Bailey, who, he was a winner. As a matter of fact, he was batting 1,000 on the season, didn't make the season opener, came out last week and won, was showing to be a contender for the Open win here tonight. And now he had trouble in that turn 5. This is going to allow Jacob Williams to make up some ground if he can get his foot to the loud pedal fast enough as pit stops continue on. But I think Christopher Bailey just proved how tough that sector of the racetrack is for the Miatas. He's a front runner. He's a winner, and he even lost it. If I'm somebody like Chris Walsh, even though I've got myself a healthy lead as he prepares for a pit stop here, Walsh now the overall leader and the sole pro driver in the field on the pit lane for his one and only pit stop of the race. But I think if I'm Walsh, I also got to be weary or made aware of just how tough that turn 5 is, because it's been catching out everybody regardless of experience or class.
Yeah, and just as Chris Walsh comes into the pits, we have a lot of people now starting to make their stops. We have Adam Poppenhaus actually made his stop, is actually coming into his pit stall. Not only him, who also was in the pit stop, obviously actually Rick Hazlitt actually came in as well. So a whole of different strategies coming in, and we're going to be seeing probably Dustin Burkhalter coming in at the end of this lap. Obviously, he has quite a healthy lead coming into third place, but you cannot sleep. Obviously, if you make a mistake, that lead can that advantage can just disappear, in a blink of an eye. And we also see, Christopher Bailey and Hunter Reeve still staying out. So we're going to be seeing some different strategies. We are not sure how many laps they still have on the fuel tank. Unfortunately, we cannot tell. So we're going to see if the overcut works for some drivers, or if the undercut is going to be the main advantageous strategy here, as we are seeing Dustin Burkhalter, the overall leader right now, coming into the final chicane.
We have Yan Tu in the pit lane, Jason Leach in the pit lane, Jay Gleason in the pit lane. We're waiting on a few more drivers. Burkhalter stays out. He collects the race lead for the moment. Hunter Reeve in second place, the first beneficiary in the field. Then it's Chris Bailey, Shane Hunter, Brian Burkhart, your current top 5. Chris Walsh has exited the pit lane into 6th overall on the racetrack. Now Jay Gleason exits the pit lane, and we wait for who might be the next off the racetrack and into the safety of the pits to get service. We kept that extra bit of view around the racetrack as these guys were all coming down pit lane. We might use it again as Hunter Reeve actually is going to enter the pit lane rather. I guess you could tell I've had a week and a half off, can't you? But Hunter Reeve comes in, the beneficiary leader at the time, will get service. Assuming he just takes a tank of fuel, may take some tires, but I think we're just going to see that car take gas and get back on the racetrack. Shane Hunter now enters the pit lane as well as the top runners start to make their way to the safety of pit road.
I've had my eye on the leader in Dustin Burkhalter, and just kind of surprised that they're electing to go with this strategy as late in the going. He's on his 21st lap of competition with 16 laps to go. So even if he elects to come down next time by, as we see Brian Burkhart elects to make his pit stop in the race, he pulls on the pit road. But if Burkhalter elects to come down next time by, that'll be with 15 laps to go. So it'll be pretty much a sprint for Burkhalter, but by staying out, he's had to avoid some carnage and some cars that he has not been around all race long. In fact, there was a car that spun. I believe it was our buddy Jason Leach who went around on the exit of the pit lane. Shane Hunter now on pit road along with Caleb Belden. But Burkhalter, with this strategy and cars blending up out of the pit lane, is he's going to dive for pit road now. I wonder how much time that may have cost him as far as his performance and lap times. His last time around, he was in the 1 minute and 41 second bracket. This lap comes in about 3 seconds slower with him diving onto the pit lane. So we'll see how it all shakes out once Burkhalter is done with service. Currently your overall leader and open leader. But again, he is only one of about 2 cars that have yet to come down pit road. And we'll see how it all shakes out. I believe Christopher Bailey was the last car that was left to come to the pits. He's on pit road now. And this should be the last of the pit stops, at least for the front runner. As you see, our pro driver in Chris Walsh has already cycled his way back up to third. He should retake the lead next time he comes down the front stretch.
And it's really interesting to see the different strategies. We see drivers taking tires, and we see some that are just taking fuel. So we're not pretty sure if the tire wear is going to be, it's being a major factor, and the end of the race could be like a deciding factor to those that decide to take tires. But one driver who actually took tires and actually made some major road was actually Jacob Williams. He's now right onto the back of Adam Poppenhaus, so actually closed that 8-second lead, even though he took tires. And I'm not pretty sure if Poppenhaus actually took tires as well. But Jacob Williams is now well and truly on that fight, as we see also Hunter Reeve actually made some good inroads on Rick Hazlitt. And as you can see, it's Brian Winker, a lapped car. Luckily, he's getting out of the way. That's extremely good for the battle. As we see some drivers, as we can see, it's pretty much a car park around at turn 3. And we saw this. Hunter Reeve actually made a good inroad, and so did Poppenhaus. So it's interesting to see the two drivers changing strategies, but at the end of the day, coming back together pretty much to keep battling and keep providing us now what is actually a 4-train battle.
And guys, how about this for a storyline mid-race? Dustin Burkhalter with an 11-second shorter pit stop than Chris Walsh, has taken the race lead by 2 seconds currently. Down the backstretch they go. Chris Walsh trying to sniff some of that draft. He has help from that car that he just passed. In fact, we'll try and get a look at who that was. That was the 07 of Mr. John Winker that he went by down the backstretch. So Dustin Burkhalter, suddenly the race leader, but Walsh is breathing down his neck and closing. If Burkhalter has the fuel to go the distance, not only does he catapult himself well and far away from Rick Hazlitt, Hunter Reeve, and others that he was battling with before the pit stop, he might be able to battle for a race win.
Yeah, and keep in mind, at the time of the pit stops, Chris Walsh was up by about 8 or 9 seconds when he came out of the pit lane. So you're talking about Burkhalter overthrowing the leader and the undefeated Chris Walsh with about a 10-second delta. So here I am wondering what Burkhalter's doing, staying out so long. I think he knew exactly what he was doing with the short fill option, and he's going to have his hands full trying to fend off Walsh. They have 19 seconds on the field in what is a very tight, looks to be about a 5-car battle for third on back. So we're in for a bit of a thriller here. Second week in a row, and it's the second week in a row that we are going to see if Chris Walsh could battle back from a differing pit strategy to get up to Burkhalter for the lead. And here is about the middle of that battle that's going on for about third, fourth, and fifth, respectively, with the 6th place runner and hard-charging Jacob Williams not that far behind, as Hunter Reeve is still looking for a way to get around Rick Hazlitt, who holds that final spot on the podium for now.
Yeah, we saw last week, Eric, the driver that actually undercut Chris Walsh didn't have the best ending to a race. You know, we saw, unfortunately, he ran out of fuel, and it's pretty much the same thing that is happening today. It's pretty much a carbon copy. We saw the driver within an over 10-second quicker pit stop. So either Chris Walsh took some tires and I didn't notice, or he just overfilled the car, or Dustin underfilled and is hoping to save a lot of fuel coming to the end of the race. You know, obviously you have a lot more spots that you can overtake on this track, so he can pretty much fuel save from turn 3 to turn 5 without actually being under a lot of pressure. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see this final few laps as Chris Walsh puts that gap down to 4/10 of a second, down to 1.6. So he's much quicker. It's going to be interesting to see how Dustin holds him off. You know, obviously he has a 20-second gap to P3, as the 3 drivers actually are battling for P3. Rick Hazlitt, Hunter Reeve, and Adam Poppenhaus. Those 2 drivers seems to be inseparable right now, as Hunter Reeve is actually looking down the inside. He thinks better of it, and he's going to be leaving that to later on this race, as we reach nearly 15 minutes to go.
And we're expecting about 13 laps to go. We've actually got 19:40 on the clock, it looks like, as Burkhalter continues to lead the way, but only by a slim margin, actually. They might be side by side here out of 6 and 7 this time by Eric. Dustin Burkhalter, his gap has narrowed. Chris Walsh all over the gearbox of the number 33. We'll see what he could do with the draft down the backstretch.
Burkhalter is hanging on, and Walsh, who is trying to remain undefeated on the season, is going to try to make a move for the lead as they come down this long back straightaway. He's going to be on the outside, so how badly does Burkhalter want to stay up alongside of Walsh, who's trying to power his way through on the top side of the racetrack? And as they come up to turn 10, Walsh is going to have the pass made and cleared by 2 car lengths as they hit turn number 10. Chris Walsh back to the lead, going to be coming around to just 12 laps to go. What can Burkhalter learn? What could he do in the draft? Can he hang on and hold up and with a challenge and shot and opportunity in the latter stages to try to unseat Walsh as the premier driver of this eSports series thus far?
We can see Burkhalter being extremely confident on the braking, and that's going to be a main factor. If he can put enough pressure on Chris Walsh to force a mistake from Chris. We haven't seen that this season so far, but, you know, we saw turn 5 cutting a lot of drivers, you know, sometimes 2 or 3 drivers per lap, on a single lap, actually, sorry. But it's going to be interesting if Dustin, even if he can't get past a raw pace, if he can just stay close enough to trying to put enough pressure on Chris, maybe Chris can make a mistake and spin out. But it's going to be interesting. You know, if he cannot get on pace, obviously he has a 20-second gap. We're going to see how much fuel he has, if he has enough to make it to the end at all without making another stop. So it's going to be an exciting 12 laps to the end for fighting for the lead. But what else is going to be an exciting 12 laps is the battle for third, as Jacob Williams makes a move into Adam Poppenhaus. Unfortunately, we didn't catch that, but he's already up into P5 as the driver who started in second. As Hunter Reeve actually made contact with Hazlitt. Hazlitt managed to save it, but unfortunately he lost the car. He didn't hit the wall at least, and that promoted the driver who I was just talking about, Jacob Williams. After starting in second, spinning out in the first lap, he's now back into the podium position.
That shakes everything up. Williams through to third, Poppenhaus to fourth. It's Bailey now passing Reeve for fifth, and Hazlitt slips down to seventh spot. Keith will be the next driver to pass him, but it's going to take 19 seconds of time made up for Keats to get there for Hazlitt. So this 4 now, as opposed to 5, shakes themselves up. Williams again up to third. It's Poppenhaus in fourth, Bailey in fifth, and Reeve in sixth. This can absolutely still change here, Eric, but wow, it really changed a lot right there. And I think the best of those drivers now is back in front, because we've seen Jacob Williams go on an absolute tear this evening. He's clearly got a lot of speed in that number 32. It's just a matter of being able to stay out of trouble. We saw him be the first victim of turn 5, and hopefully he isn't the last.
Yeah, and for those of you who may just be joining us, we are watching what is about to be the final 10 laps of race number 3 of the 2020 Operation Motorsport eSports Series presented by our friends at RECARO. And Jacob Williams started up on pole alongside of Chris Walsh, who has been so far unbeatable in this series. Only pro driver entered in the field tonight. But it is Jacob Williams who started next to him, and turn 5 has been a big trouble spot. That's where we've seen about 5, maybe 6 different drivers lose control of their vehicles at that sector of the racetrack, and Williams has been on a comeback trail ever since. He was the first one caught out by such. He fell way out of the top 10. When he came down on the pit lane, he did everything he had to do to get out in contention for a podium spot. He's currently running in third. Unfortunately, he's about 23-plus seconds behind not only your race leader, but your runner-up as well, who remains separated by half a second. But he's got the top-running beneficiary in Adam Poppenhaus, who has been on a very strong start to this esports campaign in the beneficiary class. In fact, Poppenhaus kicked things off with a very successful run. He has gone 2 for 2 for the beneficiaries. Even though he's leading in that class, you could bet that he wants to be on the podium, so that way we get a chance to talk to him for a second week in a row. And he's closing on Williams for that battle for third.
Yeah, and just like we saw last week, Adam Poppenhaus doesn't seem like the driver who wants to take risks under brake and all this sort of stuff. We see him being the cautious type of driver, the driver who capitalizes on other people's mistakes, such as Hunter Reeves. We saw him making 2 positions for pretty much for free. And, that shows the different styles. As we saw, I just saw actually on the back end, Hunter Reeves, actually let off the gas on the back straight to let Rick go past. So pretty much admitting guilt and, apologizing for the mistake that ended up causing Rick to lose that podium position. But, the battle is still going to be going on. Unfortunately, he dropped a bit back. But the question now is Jacob Williams going to hold off Poppenhaus to that third place? We saw Poppenhaus he barely makes mistakes. He's always hanging in there. But Jacob Williams seems to have a bit of the pace. But who's actually surprising me with pace is Dustin Burkhalter. He hasn't dropped a single bit. Last lap he was 1/10 behind Chris Walsh, so he's definitely putting the pressure as the 2 leaders actually get close to lapping 2 more drivers into this race. So Shane Hunter and Glenn Gray are also battling for P13 effectively. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be ended up holding the leader of this race, or they're going to be just taking the foot off and then recovering the battle later on.
As we get closer and closer to crunch time here, 13 and a half or so minutes to go. There goes Walsh on by Gray, and oh my gosh, I don't know that he really had him cleared, but they made it work. And Walsh almost gives a left rear to Gray, and now Gray gets back on the racing line. And Burkhalter, trying to take advantage of that, I think gained a bit of time on the number 28, but it's going to be a matter of really capitalizing on that. We'll see if he can as laps go by. I think he had a better racing line down the hill through the S's. We'll see if he can keep just putting the pressure on that number 28 because it seems to be working for once. I don't think we've seen this kind of a battle from Chris Walsh, aside from when he battled with Daniel Morad for a little while at VIR a couple of weeks back. This is definitely a little uncharacteristic of the driver of the number 28. Before we keep on with this battle, though, again, we want to remind you that RECARO is the presenting sponsor of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. And RECARO automotive performance seats are more than just a set of components. They exude innovation, quality, premium materials, craftsmanship, and a genuine passion for cars. RECARO Automotive is proud to support Operation Motorsport's iRacing. We also want to talk about some of our partners here at Pit Stop TV. I'm first going to mention Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. The owner, Ashley Bollier, is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. You can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com or call or text them at 207-358-8683. If you're looking for the best solutions for your permanent makeup concerns, give them a call today to book a consultation. You can also visit their Facebook page, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, and enter one of their monthly giveaways. Enter today, and who knows, you just might win. We'll be talking more about some of our partners in a little while, but the battles throughout the field are continuing to heat up. One that I'm looking at, actually, Poppenhaus losing a spot to Chris Bailey through, well, I guess the final corner, down to turn 1. Poppenhaus actually misses turn 1.
Yeah, things kind of got shaken up a little bit here. This was once a 5-car battle led up by Jacob Williams, who runs third, followed by Bailey and Poppenhaus. Looks as though that after a little game of bumper tag, that Hazlitt and Hunter Reeve have fallen a ways back from this duo, and this is probably the best race we've got going right now with Bailey, who, remember, wasn't that long ago, that car broke free from him right here at the exit of turn 5 after catching too much curbing. You see the car hop, skip, and jump a little bit. He might have had to get out of the gas again that time off of 5. And here comes Poppenhaus looking for the spot as they come up to what's going to be turn 6. It looks as though Bailey left the door open just wide enough for Poppenhaus, but he's going to slam it shut as they come to 7. It's going to be Poppenhaus with the big steam run off the corner, although it looks as though Bailey got the better launch. This is the race for 4th. And you have to wonder for Bailey what could have been if he did not find the tire barrier, albeit light contact, but he lost a lot of time when he had that spin. And here's the battle further back. We got Hazlitt and Reeve. These two have had a coming together once already, and now Reeve is trying to find his way back around in a more polite fashion as they hit the end of the back straightaway. 2 cars battling for 4, 2 cars battling for 6. Meanwhile, it is Burkhalter still keeping it about 0.8 of a second off your leader as we got 7 laps to go.
As you mentioned, Burkhalter, he doesn't seem to be slowing down at all, so he's pretty confident with the fuel he has. We saw last week, unfortunately, that backfired on Morad, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the fuel situation evolves, if he's going to have to drop back a bit in order to save. But at the moment, it looks like he's not letting off. He's still applying pressure to Chris Walsh, 0.7 of a second. Chris hasn't seen that throughout the race, remember. Before the pit stops, he was clear, 7 seconds ahead. He was controlling the pace. Every single time someone close to him, he responded with a faster lap. But now, for the past, 10 laps, he's been under pressure from Dustin Burkhalter, a guy who he hasn't raced all season long, so he doesn't know if Dustin wants to go for moves, where he wants to go for moves, or if he just wants to sit back and just apply pressure. This is a complete new scenario for Chris as he tries to keep moving out of the slipstream in order to break the slipstream, actually, in order to not give Dustin a possible chance to overtake down into the chicane.
A couple of other battles in the racetrack, I think, that are a bit closer right now. Poppenhaus actually got back on by Chris Bailey for that position, so now Chris Bailey on the offensive trying to get back up to the, still pursuing the 59 of Hazlitt, and they are nose to tail down the backstretch. And, we're actually going right back to that zone where Bailey lost that spot to Poppenhaus a lap ago. We'll see if he gets it back. He's going to make the move down to turn 10 for that chicane. Will it stick? And Bailey is going to go on by. Can he cross him up? No. The 12 of Poppenhaus rather cannot cross that 13 back over. Meanwhile, Hazlitt continues to lead that battle over Hunter Reeve, and Burkhalter's actually lost about 3/10 while we've been talking about these other battles. So Burkhalter now about a second gap to Chris Walsh, and we'll see if he can do anything with it through the S's now, the bottom of that hill before they head down to turn 6 and 7. The 33 is looking good, but I don't know if it's looking good enough.
And how amazing is this? We're going to be coming up on 5 laps to go. We're going to be racing about an hour when we see the checkered flag. And we've had a full pit stop, full green flag run, no full course yellows to bunch the field back up. We haven't seen, that's not something they have in play. And even with the numerous opportunities for the field to get strung out and separated and have positions essentially be decided, albeit a catastrophic mistake by a front runner, we've got battles all throughout the top 5 and beyond. And we are keeping our eyes on some of the front runners here as it continues to be Walsh and Burkhalter. And I got to tell you, I just got a suspicion, and I could be dead wrong on this, as I have been many times before, but watching these cars exit the S's, they're all getting a little bit more aggressive. As look at Poppenhaus, speaking of aggressive, a big mistake that time. As he enters through the S's, he goes way off the track, clips a couple of cones, and now he may lose more spots, and he will. Going by goes Reeve and Hazlitt, and Poppenhaus is going to fall out of the top 5.
Yeah, I just saw that replay. That cost Poppenhaus absolutely everything. The chance they actually had for 4th place. Unfortunately, he dropped back behind Hunter Reeve again, but he looks like he may be a bit too far back to try and make a move. But we never know. Reeve and Hazlitt already made contact this race, and if they keep battling, they're obviously going to be slowing each other down, allowing Poppenhaus to close back in. But that obviously gave Christopher Bailey the breather that he needed, the buffer. So he can pretty much relax till the end of the race. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to have the pace to keep up with Jacob Williams, but he definitely has the pace over Rick Hazlitt. And talking about Hazlitt, he's still keeping up Reeve on his back foot. We can see just managing that pace. We're not sure if Reeve is saving up a bit for the final few laps to try and make sure he just gets the move done. But, these drivers you can see just how close they are coming into turn 3. Hunter Reeve is actually putting the maximum amount of pressure that you can put without making contact. So this is incredible. As he goes a bit wide, you can just see the Mazda just drifting a bit wide. So you can see they're just pushing the absolute limit. As we see another mistake, who is that? Christopher Bailey. So I was just talking how comfortable he got. He unfortunately lost the lead. The lead, no, 4th place. And that promotes Rick Hazlitt up into 4th place. So after that contact, dropped him all the way back to 7th. He's now all the way back in 4th again.
Turn 5 strikes again. Now it's turn 7 as Hazlitt, I think, took an early apex and caught that curb on the inside, popped it up, and actually he took a really wide exit out of 7. That is actually going to bring Poppenhaus closer and closer to possibly make this a 3-car fight, because now Hazlitt is backing Reeve up, and Poppenhaus is full send right now. He wants to go catch these guys and battle again. Bailey is a little ways behind him. We could still have a 4-car battle before the end of things. We'll see what Reeve does into 10. He sits back and he is just waiting for the right time to make his move. It's kind of like super speedway racing in NASCAR, Eric, where you want to wait to make your move until out of turn 4. Even on a short track, you want to wait until the last lap, last quarter to make that bump and run to make sure you aren't passed back.
Yeah, even in some forms of road racing, depending on what type of car you're maneuvering, timing could truly be everything. And you want to be the driver to make the last move and have the last shot. And I wish I could rewind the tape, because I was getting ready to say that I feared that turn 5 was going to catch somebody else off guard. And with 4 laps to go, we may not be done yet. Reeve with a huge run approaching that sector of the course as they navigate their way through the S's. Now it's Hazlitt who runs a little bit wide momentarily. Reeve's going to fall back into the tire tracks, and don't look now, but Poppenhaus is in fact closing as they continue to sidewind and weave their way in this battle for 4th position. Here's Poppenhaus, and look at the gap starting to close with now about 3.5 laps to go for this battle, 4th, 5th, and 6th respectively. Jacob Williams holding down 3rd. Meanwhile, Burkhalter has closed the gap on Walsh for the lead. Incredible racing going on here as we'll be coming up on 3 laps to go. This battle for 4th is going to head up the backstretch once again.
Yeah, and as we see the battle for the lead once again, they're just closer and closer and closer. So Dustin probably has no issues with fuel. So we're not really sure what happened to Chris Walsh during that pit stop. We're gonna have to see if he makes it into the podium. We're obviously gonna see that on the interview. But you can see Dustin still applying pressure, and Chris is not able to pull that off. He's not. We're not seeing. Oh, actually, we're seeing Dustin, absolutely putting the pace on the pro driver as they're 24 seconds ahead of third place. So Dustin with an absolute drive today to try to put pressure on Chris and maybe become the first open driver to win an overall race.
I'll be honest, 5 minutes ago, I didn't think Burkhalter quite had it, but right now, he just might. If he gets one more good draft up to Chris Walsh, and he makes the right move into turn 10, he might be able to win this race. I think it's going to have to come on the white flag lap, though. That way he can lead up over the hill for 11 and 12 and finish this race off. We'll see if he can do it. About 2.5 laps to go, about 2.5 minutes to go. We're hoping that we get as much racing action as possible, quite honestly. Rick Hazlitt still leading Hunter Reeve in that battle. Poppenhaus suddenly making it a 3-car fight. They're all separated by less than 2/3 of a second. Hazlitt, Reeve, and Poppenhaus, or at least thereabouts. Yeah, about a half a second now as they round turn 5. Down to turn 6 they'll go. This another pretty good passing opportunity. If you can set somebody up through 6 and into 7, you might be able to get them for the backstretch.
Yeah, and one thing we're going to be keeping our eye on here in the closing laps is mistakes. We saw the leader and Chris Walsh dip a couple of tires off into the dirt for the first time. I think we're going to see that in this battle here as well. In fact, we already have. We saw Poppenhaus have a bit of a struggle on his own as he was coming up towards that sector of the racetrack, trying to hold on to that fourth spot. And we're also seeing it developing here a little bit further back to more drivers who are battling for position. But there is incredible racing going on with 2 laps to go. Again, all going on behind that of Chris Walsh, who holds down the top spot over Burkhalter by about 0.8 of a second. All by himself in the third spot, only losing 1 position. After qualifying on the outside pole, Jacob Williams holds the final spot on the podium, and we got 3 cars that are going to duke it out for 4th in this final lap and a half.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Rick Hazlitt is actually begging for Poppenhaus to come close to this battle, so Poppenhaus can maybe put a little bit of pressure on Hunter Reeve to try Rick Hazlitt in order to pull a gap. But as we can see, the 3 drivers are actually so close. If one makes a mistake, that's all over. So it's going to be incredible. We saw Hunter Reeve putting a lot of pressure on Rick, and he actually hasn't given it an inch. All throughout the race. Obviously, we saw the contact that they had. Now Hunter tried to pull a little bit of a nose, and that made Rick go a little bit wide. We see that drivers, now we're going to have to take a look at turn 5, as we see these drivers are being a little too cautious. Obviously, they're going to be throwing caution to the wind on the final few laps. Actually, on the final lap, should be next lap. And we see these drivers again. At Poppenhaus loses a little bit of ground into turn 5, so we can see the confidence levels in these drivers are a bit different. But Hunter Reeve is going to be trying to get a good exit out of turn 7 in order to finally try to make a move, which is going to be put him in 4th place.
As we come to what we should have the white flag lap right here. Time has run out. Yes, final lap. White flag is in the air. Chris Walsh has it, and he's got a second back to Dustin Burkhalter. I'm going to try and catch you all up on some of the battles around the racetrack. So Rick Hazlitt is trying to hang on to the 4th spot over Hunter Reeve, the first beneficiary in the field. Here comes the move with just over a lap to go for these driver. Reeve finally makes the dive on Hazlitt. Hazlitt sideways out of 10A down to 10B. Going to lose another spot as there goes Adam Poppenhaus. So Hunter Reeve actually now loses a position to Adam Poppenhaus. The 2 beneficiaries battle down the hill. They will take their white flag. They've got to do it all one more time as Chris Walsh continues to lead. At least I thought, no, that might have been the finish. I'm very confused right now because these guys, I saw 1 car pull over. I think he was out of gas. So I'm going to back up a little bit. Not the finish. We have the white flag. Another battle on the racetrack is Yan 2 in 9th. He's got Callum Belden right behind him down to 10 where Reeve made that pass not so long ago. He can't quite get there at the apex. This is for 9th and 10th. We also have a fight a little ways further back with John Winker and Glenn Gray. Gray has since backed off a little bit. Theo Brulsema also has Brian Burkhart to worry about. This is for 15th and 16th. So battles all over the racetrack, Eric Brennan, as they get ready to wrap this thing up. Belden might get passed up here in turn 1. This is for 9th and 10th. Nope. Looks like T will back out. Meanwhile, Chris Walsh is going to come around and collect the win.
Yeah, with a lead in excess of 40 seconds on the battle, we're going to follow to the checkers. 3 for 3 on the season for Chris Walsh. He gets another win to kick off the season for the Operation Motorsports eSports Series. It's Walsh who remains perfect with Burkhalter a close second. And we drop back now to that battle for position, including the front runners for the beneficiaries up the back straightaway for the final time.
Yeah, as you see, Jacob Williams actually is going to be finishing P3, but Poppenhausen, an absolute stunning overtake, double overtake. Is just like I talked about, a driver that, someone actually cutting the corner, someone actually made a mistake. That's Theo. And we saw just on the corner of my eye, as Hunter Reeve actually spins. I was going to say that he actually lost 2 positions, but now he spins. So what a disaster final few laps. Is he going to be losing? He lost the position to Christopher Bailey. He's going to be losing the position to Joe Keynes. Has he run out of fuel on the uphill? Looks like, oh no, he hasn't. Oh my God, not again. But unfortunately, he lost a lot of positions, and he's going to be finishing all the way down in 8th. What a final lap. Once again, Operation eMotorsport delivering on the final few laps. This is just an incredible.
It's not over just yet. This is Yen Tiu trying to pass Callum Belden in the final couple of corners before they finish their race up. This is for 9th and 10th. These are the last 2 cars that will finish this race. Can Yen Tiu get there at his first start? Doesn't look like it. Out of the final corner, Callum Belden going to take 9th position. He's one of the beneficiaries here this evening. Yen Tiu, one of the open drivers, and the 14 of Belden will take 9th place over 10th. What a race. 16 minutes, and it all came down to those battles there at the end. You saw Hunter Reeve as well lose a lot of spots right there at the end. He falls from at one point being in the battle for 4th to finishing in 8th. And I cannot believe that. Hunter Reeve has been so good since we opened up at VIR. To make that mistake on the final lap is crushing. I can't believe how painful that one's got to feel.
Yeah, and I can't believe how these races have been ending. How do we go an hour with the Mazda MX-5 at a track like Road Atlanta that is obviously proven that is mistake-prone, especially on the exit of the S's, and we have all those battles for position going down to the wire, even for the lead. I mean, the final margin of victory unofficially is about 9/10 of a second. I think just before the pit stop, I don't think any of us thought that Chris Walsh was going to have any pressure throughout the day, but Dustin Burkhalter was able to apply some pressure, not only up until he lost the lead, but really all the way down to the checkered flag. We saw Walsh make a few mistakes, and just a phenomenal run there. So we mentioned Walsh. This is his 3rd win in a row for the pros. Burkhalter, this is 2 for 3 in the open class after Chris Bailey got the win last week at Road America. And on the beneficiary stage, Adam Poppenhaus with that late race charge. Remember the mistake that he made going into one of the final right-handed corners with about, 3 laps to go? Battle back from that, came up 1 spot shy of a podium, but he will grab the class victory for the beneficiaries as well. I cannot believe how competitive these races have been.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Just another step up probably from last week. I just can't wait for Coda in this state, because on VIR we had a fantastic race. On Road America we have an even better race, and today was arguably even better. So Coda only is in store for a fantastic race. But talking about the top 3, obviously Chris Walsh led pretty much every single lap up until the pit stops. Obviously Dustin went a few laps over in the overcut. But, obviously a pro drive for him, but actually a pro drive from Dustin Burkhalter, keeping up. You can see him celebrating with a few donuts, and well-deserved. We see an open driver just putting up a battle against a pro. Is just incredible to see. And, it's not something we thought before the pit stops. The gap was over 7 seconds, and we thought the race was over. He was just controlling the pace, but Dustin completely threw it around. And Jacob Williams, after spinning on the first lap, dropping pretty much dead last, fought back and finishing up podium. So you're just showing that you can never give up in racing. The race only ends when the checkered flag drops. So just an incredible race from the top 3, an incredible race throughout the field, to be honest. This was just incredible.
Road Atlanta with the Lucky Dog iRacing League, excited for their finale. It's not the finale this evening for the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. It's only race 3 of 8 on the season, but again, Road Atlanta proves to be exciting. I think of all the road courses we've broadcasted so far, this place has got to be up there. I mean, it's batting 1,000 right now as far as exciting races here on Pit Stop TV. It's looking pretty good. I want more races at Road Atlanta because this was amazing. We are going to step into a break right quick before we come back and talk to some drivers on the far end of said commercial break. We'll be right back to you with post-race coverage of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, wrapping up race number 3 from Road Atlanta. Stay tuned.
Raceway Road Atlanta. It's a super tough race, aggressive, fast.
This racetrack is narrow. It's easy to make a mistake.
Very high physically demanding track.
The guys are on it. They're rigging every bit of performance out the car.
Super high-paced race, one of the most fun races you can have.
Oh, hey, look at this full wide with GTD traffic.
There's really no other track like Road Atlanta.
Was there enough going on for you? Incredible.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Raceway Road Atlanta. It's fast, grueling, and difficult.
Oh, hey, look at this full wide. Oh, look at that.
It goes up and down. It's never resting.
Incredible.
A lot of fun for the fans and a lot of fun for the drivers.
How can you not love sports car racing?
We welcome you back to Road Atlanta as we wrap up our post-race coverage. Well, actually, as we start our post-race coverage, wrap up the evening, though, overall. First, of course, we want to talk about some of our partners here at Pit Stop TV. We're going to lead off with Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. You provide the image you want, and we will custom create a beautiful framed high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. With Sound Art, you get the best of both worlds. Visit TucsonSoundArt.com for additional info. I'm really looking forward to something that Mr. Pat Gale over there is putting together for me. It's going to be a nice little... I don't think it's going to be very large, but a sample of what it could be. We've gotten together, and that's going to happen. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that actually turns out. Eric, I know last week at Road America, you mentioned you want to get in on that. By all means, TucsonSoundArt.com. It's one of the cooler ideas that I've heard of as of late. It's just startup companies. had never even thought that I might want it, but as soon as I knew what it was, I absolutely wanted it, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully being able to get one of those on my wall. I really, I'll say it again, really like the idea that Tucson Sound Art puts together over there. We have their ads that play during our broadcast, if you've not noticed that. So Tucson Sound Art, really looking forward to being able to work with them and keep them around here at Pit Stop TV. They do a lot for us. Hopefully we do a lot for them. They are really cool people. I really look forward to what's ahead with them. Again, a super cool idea. I also want to talk about permanent makeup and cryo in Maine once more, and when it comes to your appearance, of course, you deserve the best care that money can buy. At Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, the owner, Ashley Bollier, is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. You can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com or call or text them at 207-358-8683. If you're looking for the best solutions for your permanent makeup concerns, give Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine a shot. Give them a call today to book a consultation. They've also got a couple of new locations. I believe it's Auburn, Lewiston, and Harrison, Maine, I want to say. They now have 3 locations, and they're looking to keep branching out, I'm sure. They have some really exciting stuff going on over there, even if, per se, one of the viewers here this evening might not be one of their kind of prime clientele. You might know somebody who is, so go ahead and give them a shout, or at least give them a like on Facebook, share them around, and men out there, if your lady is for some reason concerned with her beautiful self, you might be able to hook her up with Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. Help her out. It could be a birthday, a Christmas, a Valentine's, whatever the heck might work out for that. We also want to talk about, of course, Whiplash Media, Pit Stop TV's new parent organization that specializes in sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, and more. Whiplash Media is also working on its presence in real racing, offering services such as photography, social media management, and public relations. Go to whiplash-media.com for more. And of course, one of the partners here at Operation eMotorsport, RECARO, they have done great things for Operation Motorsport and Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. An ergonomic sitting position means a comfortable position. With perfect seat contours and innovative features that support your body, RECARO Automotive makes driving fun, be it on the road or racetrack. RECARO Automotive puts people first every time. Now we get to talk to some drivers here on the back end of things, and very excited to speak with some of these guys. We're going to start off, of course, with race winner Chris Walsh. Eric Brennan, I'll turn it over to you with our overall winner.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And Chris, I'll tell you what, seeing your name atop the pylon, no surprise. Now, granted, in the pro category, not much competition there. I think the stopwatch made us all assume that this was going to be one where you were just going to ride off into the sunset. But the way the pitch strategy fell, you had some very heavy pressure from one of the open drivers in Dustin Burkhalter. And first of all, we've talked to you before about some of the things that you have been able to do in order to put your deal together and compete in this Operation Motorsport Esports Series. But in the waning stages of this race, in fact, even if we go back to about 11 laps to go when you took the lead for the final time, what was going through your mind when you happened to look up in the mirror and realize Dustin wasn't really going anywhere? You've kind of pressured you all the way to the end there.
Yeah, I mean, Dustin drove a great second half of the race. I knew I made a mistake in the pits. I took a little extra fuel than I needed, and then I had a technical issue where I had the pit stop restart. So I was in there for like 4 seconds longer. So I was like, I'm going to come out, and it'll be an interesting second half. So I didn't know where I would finally end up. But yeah, when Dustin got in the draft, he was able to hang in there, and that was actually really fun. It made it an exciting second half of the race, and he got caught up in some lap traffic there at the end, which gave me the second gap, and I could take it home from there.
You mentioned lap traffic. We watched you make a very bold move down into turn number 1. I'm curious if you know about the pass in which we're talking about, where I believe you nearly clipped the right front fender of that car with the left rear of your race-leading machine. How important was it for you to try to be the first one, and maybe in that case the only one to clear the traffic, to try to build that gap, at least to the point at which Burkhalter wouldn't have the benefit of a draft down that long backstretch?
Yeah, I was telling Glenn, hey, I'm coming on the inside, and I'm not sure if he heard the message, so I sent it in there because it looked like he was checking up, but it got pretty tight. But yeah, every lap traffic guy we came up on, it was important, obviously, to get around him, because using their draft and then getting in front of him just to create some sort of obstacle for Dustin because he had the pace at the end was important. But he hung in there despite all that. He never really let it get away, so that was exciting.
So now we got a week off before we turn our attention to Circuit of the Americas. In fact, we got a couple weeks off before we go to Circuit of the Americas on September 15th. Another very, different track as opposed to what we dealt with at VIR, Road America, Road Atlanta. It's a purpose-built road course, but with the amount of elevation change, a lot of runoff room, very forgiving. But we're also seeing some of these other drivers kind of come into their own, not just the Opens, but some of the beneficiaries. Very fast here this weekend. Do you expect to have even more competition per se when we kick things back up again in about 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think especially with the type of track Circuit of the Americas it's a lot of straightaways if we're running the full course, and so the draft is going to be huge. So these guys, they've showed they got pace and they can easily get in there, and if they can hang in the draft and keep their tires, held together, then yeah, it'll be a fun race. I hope to see Daniel back by then, but he's out on his pro tour now, so we'll see what happens.
Well, across the three classes, you are the only driver still batting 1,000, my friend. I understand that there may not have been any competition on the pro front, but you still claim the overall in all three races. That's a pretty strong start to these three races. Maybe you can keep the streak going in a couple of weeks. Chris Walsh, congratulations on yet another win, this one coming at Road Atlanta.
You guys have a great evening.
All right, Andrew, we'll turn it back on over to you. So we heard from our winner, Chris Walsh. We got a couple other people waiting in the wings as well after what was another thriller for the third race of 8 on the calendar.
And, of course, that was pro winner Chris Walsh. We're going to speak with each of our class winners this evening for starters. So next we're going to walk on down to Dustin Burkhalter. JP Casa, I'll turn it over to you with our second place overall finisher.
Hello, Dustin. Can I get a copy?
Yep, I'm here.
So, tell us about that drive. The first half was pretty okay, I guess. You kept up, you managed to pace the gap to first place, but that pit stop, that completely changed the race. We saw a completely different race from the second part on. We saw what was essentially a pro drive from an open driver. So, talk us through that race.
Was just hoping to gain some time in the pits. I took it out at the extra 2 laps. Chris said he made a mistake and had an extra 4 seconds in the pits, and once I let him pass me because I didn't really have much chance of holding him off without killing both of our times. And once he got past me, I just locked onto his draft and was doing everything I could to not let it go so I could be there to try to make a move on the last lap. And we hit some lap traffic at a bad time, and it just ended up pushing me too far.
Yeah, unfortunately, the left traffic didn't play in your favor, but obviously, the rest of the race, you kept closing in and dropping back a bit. That was incredible. So, as you said, you didn't make a mistake. Actually, Chris made a mistake on the pit stops, but this is your second podium in 3 races. Obviously, you made podiums on the probably most difficult tracks. We saw barely any mistakes from you throughout the season. So how does your focus shift, heading into COTA? Obviously a very different track. We see a lot of runoff areas, so completely different through the last 3 that we raced. So how does the focus shift?
Not a big fan of COTA, just overall, but the big key thing for me is going to be keep it on track, because there is all that runoff, but there are big slowdowns that are very easy to trigger, and the goal is going to be just try to hang behind somebody, save the fuel, keep in the draft, and then ideally it's Chris or Daniel if he shows back up, and then be there at the end of the race, try to make a move. There's plenty of chances in a Miata after that back straight to make a move on the last lap and be able to have a chance of holding it.
I'm pretty sure you're just excited as we are, heading into COTA. It's going to be an entirely different race, and I hope to see you again on the podium in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, thank you.
And so that is Dustin Burkhalter finishing second overall, winning in the open category. Next, we're going to walk on down the line. We have Adam Poppenhaus to talk to, and we'll get him in here. Adam Poppenhaus, what a run. I mean, It wasn't always looking like you were going to end up being the best of the beneficiaries this evening, but you end up doing just that in quite an exciting battle. You win the beneficiary category.
Yeah, what an ending. I mean, I had a little run in there with one of the open classes cars, and kind of got me out of my comfort zone, and I dropped a tire, and I let Rick and Hunter by, but they were battling, so I was able to catch up and kind of got lucky there at the end and snuck through.
It was certainly an exciting race and more exciting finish right there. Tell us about dealing with the Turn 5 woes that it seemed like was plaguing the entire field, popping up onto that curb and trying to fight through it. And then obviously you still have the battle, you have the race going on, you've got to worry about when to pit and how to maximize your pit stop and come out first, hopefully.
Yeah, the pit stop was incredibly important today. Hunter and I were, we were kind of just trying to turn some laps, I think, in playing follow the leader there, run some good clean laps, and I was trying to get an undercut going, and it actually worked out a little bit, but I think I was right where I needed to be with the fuel. But there was a couple different lines that were working, depending on the tires, and I think especially at the end there, you saw everybody battling, but all of us taking a kind of a more personal comfort line, and it led for some good racing.
It really was some good racing right there at the end. I mean, there were 5 cars in a train. What was it like from your perspective trying to work through all of that, and then you end up with a double overtake right at the end to get that 4th spot?
I was getting a little hard on myself when I let him by after my mistake, and I was driving with some anger in my fingertips, if you will, trying to catch up, and luckily they had a big battle going, and Rick made that Miata about as wide, I think, as he could. Again, they were racing hard, and there was a mistake, and I was just able to sneak through at the right time. Coming out of the pits was incredibly important. I kind of got a couple seconds on everybody, but man, sometimes if you're clean and run some good lap times, you can get lucky and sneak through. And my hats off to everybody that was racing hard. It was an incredible time.
So, of course, as with every week, we want to ask you about your relation to Operation eMotorsport, because there might be somebody who's just tuning in for the first time. It might not have heard your story before, and I actually got to hear some of your story for the first time last week at Road America. Go ahead and give it to us all again.
Sir, so I myself am a double amputee as results from injuries in Iraq in 2006. So I am involved with, or became involved with Operation Motorsports through Resilience Racing, and we're an organization that is trying to develop, in partnership with Texas A&M's engineering department, we are developing some racing-specific hand controls. That our goal is to be able to take away some of the uncomfortable moments of the prosthetics, if you will, and to be able to enjoy racing competitively in a safe and repeatable way. So this has been my first go around with any series in iRacing, and so far so good.
Yeah, so far so good. You end up the beneficiary winner this evening, 4th place overall, and you had some impressive pace, sir. Firstly, I want to thank you for your service, and secondly, I just want to praise how good of a driver you are here on iRacing. Despite being a double amputee, like you say, you are probably better than I am, especially in these Miatas. You are honestly some of the, I guess, the top cream, if you will, here in the series. The cream rises to the top, and you are certainly right there, Mr. Poppenhaus. You're quite impressive, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can do the rest of the season. We're only through 3 races of 8, so we've just still got 5 races for you to give it your all, and I can't wait to see what that number 12 does. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining this series, and hopefully we're talking to you in every one of those races from here on out.
Man, thank you. Those are some very kind words. That's high praise. Yeah, we're hoping to keep it up. I have some great teammates, and we practice hard. So cheers, everybody, and hope to talk to you next week, in 2 weeks.
So thank you, Adam. We'll move him back down, and that's got to be one of the better stories. And I think Eric, when you talked to him last week, you said it kind of really hit home, might have choked you up a little bit. Kind of the same here, listening to it all again. It's something, and I'm really thankful, really grateful to be a part of this series and be able to be, like I said earlier, that missing link between it happening and everybody getting to see it. Really super thankful to be a part of that process and bring these broadcasts to everybody at home and talk to people like that, because that is truly one hell of a story. And man, I don't even know what else to say. It hits every time.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I've been very fortunate to, MC a number of awards banquets, call play-by-play for some racing events, and, even do a little bit of radio and television. And when I talked to my wife last Wednesday morning about what this esports series was all about, it kind of choked us both back. Her eyes kind of lit up because, granted, she's not fully engulfed in the racing world per se. She sees what I do on the real world side on the racetrack. She sees that I'm getting more involved with the production of some of these esports series. And when I told her the meaning behind Operation Motorsport, and not just the Sim League, but everything else in which they stand for, she really was surprised that that was really a solution. Again, the idea is to take a lot of these individuals who literally put their life on the line to protect the freedoms of not only us here in the States, but also those up north as well in Canada. And it gives them an outlet when things may not have gone the way that they would have hoped for, or it gives them an outlet just simply because they may have gotten hurt and they couldn't serve and protect anymore and do the job in which they signed up to do. For some of them, they were aspiring to do so for life. And when you have that opportunity taken away from you, it leaves a rather large void. And I think that everyone who has put this organization together, this series included, that we're privileged enough to cover, I think that by them doing that, they've come pretty darn close to trying to help fill that void. And you could see it just by some of the dialogue and reactions that we see from some of the beneficiaries. And it extends beyond, as we mentioned, just this esports series. And I just want to direct everybody, as I did with my wife, to check out the website at operationmotorsport.org. And there's a donation link available there as well. And there's so many other bits of information and pieces as to all the other programs they have going on. And, this was pretty much a backup plan. We're all kind of at a standstill right now at everything that's going on in the world. And, they were able to take this pathway to kind of continue to serve their purpose and their mission. And it's so far working out, in my opinion, on an extraordinary scale. And I'm with you, Andrew, and JP, I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm just really happy to be a part of it.
Obviously coming from a country that doesn't have a lot of military history, if you don't know, I'm from Brazil, so seeing this is a completely different side from everything that I've ever experienced in my 20 years. We don't see that often, we don't have a lot of injured veterans, but we do see, I do see on the news and all sort of stuff, and seeing what happens to them, the impact, the emotional impact, it's pretty harsh to read everything that happens, and seeing operations like this, seeing, as you guys said, outlets in order to allow these guys to continue on with their lives, doing something that they love, is just incredible. And it's touching, especially for a foreign, someone that is not from the States, to be able to do this, something like this. It's heartwarming, and I'm really thankful for the opportunity that not only Whiplash Media gave me, but also Operation Motorsport for allowing me to commentate on this league.
Now, before we wrap things up, we actually have one more beneficiary that I want to talk to. He's already here in the booth. So, John Winker, do you have us?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, John, I saw you there waiting patiently. I figured we'd go ahead and talk to you real quick. John, it was actually kind of a quiet night for you. I saw you start a little ways further back, but you quickly worked your way up. You started 12th. I saw you fall a little ways back. Tell us about your race a little bit, because you started 12th, but I don't think that's quite indicative of the mid-race. Granted, you finished 13th.
Yeah, I had a little bit of trouble in the beginning. I had some control issues at the beginning of the race, so I did fall back pretty early on, but I did work my way back up to about where I started.
Yeah, so we haven't seen much of that number 07, I don't think, with Resilience Racing across the door. tell us about your season so far and who Resilience Racing is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually the co-founder of Resilience Racing. Really wanted to just get the other vets involved. I'm really happy to see Adam and Callum, Rick, the other gents involved in Resilience Racing, finishing so well out here. Really, Resilience Racing is just happy to be involved with Operation Motorsport and able to get some beneficiaries involved in this E-Series. Just glad to be a part of the Operation Motorsport mission that they've got going on. This has just been fantastic so far. So I'm just glad to be part of this. Haven't been doing as well as I would like, but definitely it's been keeping me giving me something to do on Tuesday nights, and look forward to improving my skills out here for sure.
I'll tell you what, 12th place to start and 13th place to finish still is not very bad, and you had some pretty decent pace. I saw you working your way back through some of those positions. So again, to finish 13th, not very bad at all. Now, what is the relationship, I guess, between Resilience Racing and Operation Motorsport? How did you guys find one another, and what do you guys do now?
Yeah, so Resilience Racing actually started getting into iRacing about the same time that Operation Motorsport started venturing into iRacing as well. So we actually started kind of doing the same events around the same time. So a few months back, Operation Motorsport started putting out feelers for their events about the same time that we created a league. And we basically decided just to join up with their events, and they Operation Motorsport, Jason Leach really had some great events going, and we decided just to partner up with them, and instead of focusing on our own events, we decided to just partner up with them. And really what Resilience Racing was trying to do is we were really looking to use iRacing as a training tool for our hand controls. So we're looking to develop racing specific hand controls for real race cars, and we're looking to use iRacing as a training platform for our hand controls that are going to be in the real race cars. So our primary mission is to take those hand controls that are going to be used in the real race cars and use iRacing as a simulation tool to train our drivers, as a driver development system, to get those drivers trained up, and then use those same exact hand controls and put them in a real race car. So that's primarily what our focus was. And Operation Motorsport, was really looking to, build the league and do, the whole series piece, which we didn't really want to get all involved in that piece. So we felt it was a perfect fit to just jump into what Operation Motorsport had going and more so focus on our driver development piece. So we felt it was a perfect fit to, let's focus on our driver development and, let people like Adam Poppenhaus and Callum, let's focus on getting them the driver training and the experience. And, we'll continue to focus on our hand controls piece and, the driver development piece, and, kind of ride on the coattails and whatnot of what Operation Motorsport is, and support their mission and continue to feed them drivers in their series and make that successful from that side, as opposed to trying to put the effort into running the series from that perspective. So
let me just tell you real quick, John, that is one of the cooler companies that we've had talked about here on Pit Stop TV. Possibly the coolest. That guys obviously can do if you're helping guys get into iRacing, and through iRacing get into real cars to be able to race even after whatever traumatic injury might be keeping them from, being able to drive a car normally. So being able to use those hand controls, I'm sure, is a massive, massive step, even possibly applied to just streets trying to go get groceries. I mean, that's something that everybody's got to do. So that's a really, really cool story. And hopefully we're talking to you a lot more this season as well, to keep repeating this story over and over, because it's something people need to hear. And Resilience Racing, I think, is something that people need to know about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, John, before we let you go, I want to just give you the floor here real quick. Anybody else you want to thank? Anything else you've got to say here on Pit Stop TV? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I would just definitely like to thank Operation Motorsport for putting this on, and their sponsors for sure. I mean, RECARO, is a big one for supporting this series. Has been massive. To be able to support this series, and then some of our partners as well that have been able to help us along in helping us achieve our mission. Skip Barber has been a massive supporter of what we're doing, and Redline Oil and Baycom as well. They've been massive supporters of what we're trying to do, and we wouldn't be able to continue doing what we're doing without their support.
Once again, John, thank you for your time. Hopefully we're talking to you more this season, and I look forward to seeing you climb up those standings as well. We go to COTA in a couple of weeks' time, and we've got some more amazing racetracks ahead. Before we wrap things up this evening, Eric, Brennan, I'm going to turn it over to you and JP Costa with our race results.
Yeah, we'll take a look at how they came to the checkered flag to settle it. And we see Chris Walsh, who was the only pro driver in the field, did come to the checkers in P1 for the third time in a row in the 3 races to kick off this season, with Dustin Burkhalter a very excited second, and also the winner for the open class. Jacob Williams started on the outside of the front row. He's able to celebrate a podium that in no way tells his whole story, as he had to charge up through the pack to get that third place finish. And Adam Poppenhaus, who's the beneficiary winner, comes home in 4th. Rick Hazlitt rounds out your top 5. Christopher Bailey, despite having the spin off of turn number 5, one of many drivers who had trouble at that sector of the racetrack, came home in 6th. Joe Keens in 7th spot. 8th was Hunter Reeve, who's battling for the beneficiary win very late in the going before a spin late in the race. Didn't kick him out of the top 10, has settled for 8th. 9th is where you'll find Caleb Belden, another one of the Resilience Racing entries after we just talked to our buddy in John Winker. And rounding out the top 10 in his first start of the season was Jan 2.
Finishing up in 11th place and a lap down, the first of the guys that got lapped, actually the last one, sorry. Jay Gleason finished up in 11th, and Shane Hunter finished up in 12th. John Winker, the guy you just heard of, finished actually P13. Glenn Gray finished at P14. In 15th place, we have Brian Burkhart. In 16th, we have Theo Brosema. 17th, Jason Leach. 18th, Brian Winker. 19th, Tim Bernard. And 20th, a driver that hasn't unfortunately started, Mark Ray.
So 20 drivers end up making the race results once more. I think right around that 19-20 mark all 3 weeks so far. I do want to talk about some point standings we had coming into this evening. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get a chance to speak about them earlier on. So these are the point standings coming into tonight. These are not as of the race that we just watched. So this is kind of an idea of what you'll see, but obviously it's going to be a bit different after this evening and after the race we just had at Road Atlanta. It was certainly a thriller. Daniel Morad did not show this evening, so of course Chris Walsh notches himself a 3rd straight pro win. Adam Poppenhaus, the winner in the beneficiary class, so he's going to notch himself his 2nd win. Hunter Reeve, we saw him right at the end slip down the standings, and Callum Belden I don't think quite got to him, so there won't be a switch there between those two, but we could see some other points get moved around. And of course the open class, very open in terms of the points battle. We'll see Burkhalter hold that points lead, but we're going to see some things move around with Jacob Williams finishing quite a ways ahead of Joe Keens, about 4 or 5 positions or so, so that should shake things up there. I really look forward to seeing how this points battle shakes up going into Circuit of the Americas in a couple of weeks. It should be a lot of fun. One more time for Pit Stop TV, I just want to thank everybody involved in the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, be it Jason Leach, Diesel and Tiffany Lauder, anybody else, RECARO, Mobile One, USO of North Carolina. I'm going to miss some right here because it's just a powerful moment. I want to thank everybody that partners with us, Tucson Sound Art, Permanent Makeup in Cryowood, Maine, Whiplash Media, everybody else. This is truly some of the best racing that we currently have and have ever had here at Pit Stop TV. And it's only still the beginning. It's only the first half. There's a lot of racing to go. and I cannot wait for it all. But that will conclude our coverage tonight of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. We at Pit Stop TV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Be sure to join us tomorrow evening as we bring you the Bluegrass iRacing Series at Pocono Raceway, the 5th race of 12 on the season, and again on Friday as the Maconi Setup Shop goes up against the Rocket Setup Shop at Richmond in the NASCAR Cup Cars. You can catch that at 6 p.m. Eastern. That should be a lot of fun. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and on YouTube by searching Pit Stop TV. For all of us at Pit Stop TV, Eric Brennan and JP Costa with me on the call tonight, Trey Shuttlesworth on social media, and Emerson Ardon with production help, I am Andrew Cardinale IV, and we will see you next time.
Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's fast, grueling, and difficult.
Oh, hey, look at this. Full wide code. Look at that.
It goes up and down. It's never resting.
Incredible.
A lot of fun for the fans and a lot of fun for the drivers.
How can you not love sports car racing?
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's a super tough race, aggressive, fast.
This racetrack is narrow. It's easy to make a mistake.
Very high physically demanding track.
The guys are on it. They're wringing every bit of performance out the car.
Super high-paced race, one of the most fun races you can have.
Oh, hey, look at this. Full wide with GTD traffic.
There's really no other track like Road Atlanta.
Was there enough going on for you? Incredible.